Welcome back to the channel today, guys. We're working on our 2010 Dodge Journey again. Today we're going to be doing the rear brakes. I'm going to show you what you guys need to do and all the tools you're going to need along the way. Make sure you like and subscribe for more content like this too. Okay guys, we got a couple tools ready here. We got a jack stand, we got a jack, tire iron, we got the brakes, we got the brake pads, we got a ratchet set and a couple sockets and some air tools ready to go. We got our air line out here with us. And so I'm going to show you guys how we're going to jack the car up and get to it. So I'm just going to break these nuts free first with my tire iron. This nut here is a little swollen. We're going to have to use a different size socket. I'm just going to tap this socket on here. Careful not to hit the rim. Let's see if we can get it off the impact. Alright, so we got that off, but that's not going to be able to go back on. This nut got all swollen from being over torqued or something, so this nut's going to be no good anymore. It's jammed in there. We'll have a couple tricks to get it out. Maybe just throw it at the ground, pop something through the back here. No big deal. Alright, so now I'm going to finish jacking the car up. I already found a nice jacking point in the back here. I like to put the tire under the vehicle when I'm working on it, just for a little extra level of safety in case something goes wrong with the jack or the jack stand. And so at this point, we're going to put the jack stand under there. So as you see, those rotors are extremely worn out. And they're giving us a lot of pulsating when we brake. So you feel the whole back of the vehicle just shaking away. If you look in here, I don't know if you can see it well or not on the camera. There we go. There's plenty of brake pad on it. We got nice even wear. So we don't have a caliper issue or anything like that. Just these rotors are very glazed over. So just to keep it all nice, we're going to put new pads and rotors on. So to get started on these brakes, we're going to need to just pull off these two mounting bracket nuts right here. Alright guys, I'm back. I got a nice stubby socket, a 3/4 inch drive ratchet, and a little bar for a little extra leverage. Right now, this is interfering on the emergency brake cable, and so I can't get this socket on good. So I'm going to need a bit of an extension or a little bit longer of a socket or something so I can get in here. So I'm going to try a little different configuration. I'll be back in a second. Well, with the deep socket, on just the 1/2 inch drive here. Let's see, on the 3/8 drive, and we'll see what happens. Oh yeah, that's a little bit better. There we go. You want to make sure that you're not rough on the brake lines or anything like that while you're doing this. Just be you're just after this bolt, right? So don't be trying to interfere with too many other things while you're here, right? All right, now we got that broke free. We'll do the other one. Now be very careful when you're pushing down at the ground like this. You can bust your knuckles pretty easily, so try and keep an open hand on it if you can. Okay guys, we got both these 18mm nuts off, and now we're going to pop this caliper off and hang it up off this wire we rigged up earlier. Alright, sorry about that guys, looks like we lost a little bit of the video of me popping the rest of this caliper off here. But I just kept prying away on it until we got it. Just keep giving it, right? Somebody else is going to be able to get it off, so you can too. Just keep prying away, and eventually you'll get it off, and you'll get it tied up on here. And now we'll have this. I've sprayed this area with some WD-40 and gave that a chance to set up, and now we're going to start trying to tap this off here. Voila, just a little bit of heat and she popped free. Look at that. Now it's a little bit warm, so I'm going to be careful grabbing it. But there we go. And now you can see just how messed up this rotor was. Very, very messed up, so no wonder we were getting a lot of pulsating when we were braking. So I ripped myself off a new piece of sandpaper. I'm going to give this a good cleaning, and then we're going to throw a little bit of grease on it, just to kind of help get this off again if it ever needs to come off again. Old shirts are perfect rags for working on your cars. So I'm just going to wipe off that WD-40 that I sprayed on there a little bit. Now I'm just going to get right in there with the grease. All over. It's okay if you get it on the threads, it's even good. You'll have an easier time getting the bolts off later for the nuts. When you're doing your back brakes, this hub spins freely, so don't be shy about using that to your advantage if you want. Okay, so we can grease this part up all we want, but we definitely don't want any grease on our rotor, okay? So I'm going to go grab our, actually next what we need to do is pop out these brake pads, and we're going to push this piston back. Alright, so I just want to bring you guys in for a closer look at what I'm about to do here. So I put our two 18mm bolts back in and got this caliper just mounted back on here. so we can push that piston back in. On a rear brake like this, it has an emergency brake, and so that emergency brake twists the piston out. So you'll see there's these two little grooves here. So whenever you see that on your brake piston, that means you got to twist it back instead of pushing it back with the C-clamp. So there's some special fancy tools that you can get to do that, but I just mount it like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take just some needle nose pliers, open them up, line them up in the groove here, and just twist until it's retracted all the way. So we'll come back to this in a minute. Okay guys, as you do this, make sure that you open the cap on your brake fluid, and it makes it a little bit easier. Also, be careful not to rip any of this rubber boot here. You don't want to get any contamination in there, so be very gentle around that. Okay, so we've retracted that all the way. I'm having a little bit of issues with the boot here, so I'm going to have to work on this and try and get this to sit a little bit flatter. We don't want this boot to get pinched at all in between the piston and the pad. Okay, so now we have that all fixed up, I'm going to go grab our pads and rotors. So I just compared these rotors off camera. They are definitely the same rotor. You always want to compare your parts and make sure that what you're putting on is the same as what you're taking off. I'm also going to clean this rotor first. We just spray this down with some brake and parts cleaner. And again, we don't want any grease where our pads are going to be, right? In this area here, that's okay to have some grease. There's no brakes in here. But up here, no grease. Gonna tie this back up for a minute here while I get the pads ready. So if you look, we have two different pads. One of them has just this extra little steel tab on here. That's a wear indicator. So when you hear that brake squeal, that means this tab is rubbing against this rotor here, and your pad is near the end of its life. Usually you're going to have issues with the inside pad wearing first, so I always like to put this on the inside pad. And by inside I mean this side of the rotor, this being the outside. Okay guys and girls, so after we put these new shims in here and we check our brake pad, it's pretty snug. It's a little bit too snug for me because you want the brake pad to be able to move in there pretty easily. So we're just going to take a file and just kind of file these tabs just a little bit to make it just a little bit freer in here. You don't want it flopping around too much or you'll start hearing noise, but you want it to move freely and not bind up and seize. So I'm just going to touch those with a file, and then I'm going to finish cleaning up all these pins and holes with some grease. So I've got those pins greased up. I've got these rubber boots all cleaned up again. Just going to slip those on there. Make sure they go all the way on. Yeah, everything's nice and clean, greased up. Our pads move freely now inside of here. Check that out. We filed off all these tabs all the way around, so they just move through here nicely. Right, not too much slop, not too much play, but I can move it back through there pretty evenly without it being cocked or blocked up in any way. Alright, so we got our caliper back on here, we got our 18mm nut and bolts in here, and so I'm just going to finish tightening this down. So the torque setting for this is just tight. If you're using your air tools, maybe just 2 ugga-duggas. And then one final check we can do is let's make sure that this caliper moves on here. Alright, so we have our bracket here. As you can see, this moves very nice and freely. Always check to make sure that this moves and isn't seized up and bound up, and that everything can still move. Every pad moves, like caliper moves, everything moves. Everything's all greased up and nice. We're not going to have any problems with this. So I'm going to clean this all up, and before I put the tire back on, I'm going to sweep up all this metal. I don't want to drop the tire right back down in all this metal debris that fell, all this old rusty metal here. Alright, so we'll catch you back in the next one. Thank you guys. Have a good one. Don't forget to like and subscribe. One last thing I forgot to mention, guys, before we head out here. Don't forget to check your oil level and your brake fluid here. Alright, so I don't know if we can zoom in there, but you can see we're pretty much right at about the max. If we had a little bit too much in there, we'd maybe just use a little paper towel or some suction or something to suck a little bit out. And we obviously don't want to be too low, and we'd top it up. So that's the final part of doing your brake job, guys, here. So see you in the next one.